Hello and welcome to another D&D Stories. I'm your host, TheWriter. This is the show where I sit here and regale you with all the tabletop gaming stories and remember when something cool happens. So we rejoin our heroes, Fudo Padclaw and Stands with a Fist of the Padclaw tribe, as they face down a bullet, or a bullet, or however you pronounce it. I got so many people correcting me now. It's a land shark with armor like a tank, and it can swim through earth as a shark swims through water. So everybody else is dead. The lizard folk are dead, the kobold diggers are dead. They're in the middle of this temple far beneath Oceanrim. And they're the only things left that are moving. So boss fight, yes! And I was like, okay, roll initiative. Who wins the initiative? The bullet. And what does it do? It charges, because that's what bullets are. They're fast. And I was like, okay, I got to make this fair. And I roll the d4 to one side to see which of them it will attack. It goes straight for Stands with a Fist and rips her arm off with its teeth. And I use something, you guys have probably heard about this under different names. I call them extreme criticals. Some people call them exploding dice or crit tables, to where if you take a whole ton of damage all at once, or if you take 50 damage all at once, or if you lose more than half your health all at once, something horrible will happen, whether to you or to the bad guys. And Stands with a Fist lost half of her health in this bite attack. And I was like, okay, rolled on the chart. Loss of a limb. So it tore her arm off. Blood everywhere, blood. Ah! She falls to one side and falls out of the initiative order because she spraying blood everywhere. And Fudo, of course, aims his crossbow. He's like, I don't know if this is even going to work. And shoots, and it like pink off of its face. And it takes no damage. Stands with a Fist has to roll fortitude to not just pass out from catastrophic blood loss. But thankfully, she's a monk. She makes the fortitude save. And, she, just decks it in the face because she's still got one fist. And believe it or not, the rules for a flurry of blows, at least in Pathfinder, I believe, don't say you have to use your fists. You can use your fists or your feet or, in some cases, your head. So if you're missing an arm, you can still do flurry of blows. So while Fudo's reloading the crossbow and, running, Stands with a Fist is doing much the same. They're going to try and bottleneck this thing. Maybe Fudo can get, the lucky shot between its teeth or into its eye socket or somewhere where it is soft, because there's not many soft places on this armored thing that's motoring after them like an unholy gecko, just tearing shit up, running over bodies, blood and gore already down the front of its mouth, and it's chewing on Stands with a Fist's arm. She's just got like a shoulder nubby. It's awful. And I'm constantly throwing fortitude saves and blood loss damage. I think regular blood loss is a D4 every round, but losing a limb, I was throwing D10s, and she kept getting really lucky, 2, 2, 3, 1. And I don't think Fudo realized how easily she could have been 10, 10, 8, blah, dead of blood loss. But it didn't happen. It's very lucky. And Stands with a Fist is kind of trying to tank, like dexterity tank, I guess, between the bullet and Fudo, because he needs time to reload his crossbow. And he gets it up and he shoots again, and it fires not down its throat, but into its gums. So they're doing a little bit of damage. And of course, Stands with a Fist rushes up to melee with it and does flurry of blows. She basically jump kicks it a couple of times to do blunt force damage, but of course it's an armored creature, so it doesn't take as much damage as it could if it had soft fleshy parts, which it doesn't. So finally, Fudo's I pull out the death arrow, and if you guys remember, the death arrow they picked up, it is a +8 to attack and damage. I was like, okay, Fudo, you load up the death arrow. He goes, no, I'm going to just take it out of my backpack and wield it like a melee weapon. And I go, okay. you're using a weapon incorrectly, so you'll take a -4 to your attack if you just like run and try to stab it with this arrow. And he's like, yes, exactly. So Fudo, Prince Fudo Padclaw, like leapfrogs over, stands with a fist. He's got the black arrow, this death arrow, clutched in his fist, and he basically tries to grab the creature by its face and stab it in the eye socket. Rolls a 20, because of course he does. It's what makes stories like this great. Rolls a 20. And I only said it took a -4 out of his attack, not his damage. So he rolls damage, and then he adds the 8 more damage from the death arrow itself, and then stands with a fist, punches the butt of the arrow while it's in its eye socket to shove it up through its brain and out the side of its head, like between platelets, and it falls over dead. And then there is silence in the tunnel before Stands with a Fist kind of staggers and falls back against the wall, blood splattering against the rock and earthen wall that had been dug out. And she kind of like starts hyperventilating. Like I think a human being has like 20 liters of blood or something like that, and you can sort of stay alive with about half of that. But with Kobold, they are quite a bit smaller, and she's got a giant gaping flesh wound, and her arm is gone. It's chewed up and halfway down this beast's throat. The only reason Fudo didn't get his head ripped off is because its mouth was already full, so that was, I guess, lucky, ? But she's kind of hyperventilating because she's losing so much blood, and Fudo's like, I pull the potions that I've got, and he makes her drink 2 potions, and he pours another potion onto her like nubby. And I'm of the school of thought that potions are kind of enigmatic. So like a potion of cure minor wounds isn't gonna regrow a limb. I think you need like regeneration or another type of magic or spell for that. If it doesn't explicitly say that it regrows limbs, then it can't, because your hit points are an arbitrary number. It's not something in character. So her gaping flesh wound kind of closes up, and her hit points are back to full, but she's still missing an arm, and she's traumatized because she nearly got chewed in half by this monster. And again, silence kind of falls over this tunnel, and he kind of cradles her like cover of a romance novel style while she's like laying limp in his arms while he's looking around at all the dead bodies and carnage and stuff. And I go, Fudo, the bullet is dead, and all the lizard folk are dead, and most of the kobold diggers are dead. The only thing that remains unexplained is what's in the coffin in the temple that you helped them break into. And he's like, oh, right. So he tells Stands with a Fist he'll be right back. And he goes to check out the temple to see what all this hubbub and fuss and peace treaties and death was all about. And the coffin's already open because you remember the lizard folk guy that actually made it far enough pulled a magic staff from whomever was buried in the coffin. And Fudo kind of leans up and over to see a humanoid figure with a squid-like face and tentacles for fingers. And yeah, exactly. Fudo doesn't know what it is, but his player does, and kind of backs off immediately. Now, it's basically a mummy. It's not going to jump up and attack him or anything, but the staff lays on the ground to one side because the lizard man that picked it up out of the coffin got chewed in half when the bullet made its grand entrance. So Fudo goes and grabs it, and it adjusts itself down as though made of quicksilver to a kobold size, and he sticks it in his bag. And he goes, okay, well, that's obviously what the lizard folk were after, so he'll be able to use it as a bargaining chip later. And he goes and he kind of Stands with a fist up, basically like bridal style, and they make their way out to the entrance of the place, and all the kobold have fled. They've left all kinds of supplies. The cauldron is still boiling with dinner stew, and poor alarm bell kobold, he's still just kind of laying there, but Fudo can't grab him because he's got Stands with a Fist in his arms. And he kind of leans down and like shuts alarm kobold's eyes. Like, he had the most dangerous job, poor guy. But he alerted everybody before those would-be heroes broke in and start killing everybody. So he did his job, and he will be remembered, Alarm Bell Kobold. But Fudo kind of peers out into the darkness as it's night now to see if they can make it across the beach and back to the Padclaw tribe burrow. And it is just raining ferociously, just thunderclaps and lightning and rolling clouds, all kinds of stuff. It almost doesn't feel like day or night, so it's hard to tell. And Fudo decides that they're gonna kind of like dig a little like gopher hole and kind of hide out until the storm is done. So Stands with a Fist is, like I said, traumatized, missing a limb. Her HPs are full, but she's got PTSD. Her arm got ripped off. And they leave behind all the bodies because, what are you going to do? And they go out, across the beach. The storm more than hides them from whoever happens to be watching on the wall. And they dart from rock to rock until they make it back into the forest. And Fudo finds like an embankment or whatever you like, and digs like a little place for them to kind of cram in there and wait for the storm to end. And it's little that Fudo can do other than like hold Stands with a Fist, because this has gone so south so quickly that he's not a psychologist, he's a hunter. He doesn't really know what to do, and Stands with a Fist is a proud, upright warrior who is basically his girl next door. So this near-death experience has not helped their relationship. And once the storm has passed, the next day starts, and then night falls because they're only going to travel at night. And they make their way back to the Padclaw tribe burrow. And everybody is, of course, elated to see them, that Prince Fudo Padclaw has made it back, and Stands with a Fist is still alive. Oh no, where's her arm? We're going to see her to a shaman or a medicine kobold. They don't really know, like, regenerative magic or anything like that. They might have a few potions and, like, shake their sticks over her missing limb. There's not a whole ton that they can really do to bring her back to 100%. So Stands with a Fist is to be without her arm forever. But a small price to pay, she says, to make sure everybody else got out alive, despite the adventurers, despite the bullet, despite the treacherous lizard folk not telling us what we were getting into. But forgot what I was going to say. Oh well. They, like I said, they're just so happy to see Prince Fudo back, and 15, 16, 17 kobold made it back alive that might have been cut down by those would-be adventurers, and he slayed a bullet. All those other kobold died. He's better than Prince Fudo. He's better than Fudo Padclaw. He's Fudo the Bulette-Slayer. And that's what they had to call him for the rest of the campaign. And, Stands with a Fist was like, yeah, that's a good title. It fits you. Fudo the Bulette-Slayer. That's, for a kobold especially. Killing a land shark? Yes, please. That's a great title to have. It's not vague like, Ragnar the Red or Alexander the Great. That doesn't really mean anything. But Fudo the Bulette-Slayer, that says something. That says exactly what happened. That's why you're so great. It's a fantastic title. So Fudo the Bulette-Slayer goes to see his father, and of course the diplomats, quote unquote, are still there in the meeting room. Arguing, talking, putting things in writing, even though Kobold really don't have a writing system. Between their tribes, since they heard that Prince Fudo and Stands with a Fist have returned. Stands with a Fist has gone to rest and be fussed over by healers, whatever healers they might have. And Fudo has come to the diplomatic meeting with his bargaining chip, the silvery staff he knows they want, because there was nothing else there of value other than the body, and what's it going to be worth? Not a lot. But the diplomats kind of know that Fudo's got the item that they want, and they won't say what it is out loud, but Fudo is angry with him because they didn't say there would be some kind of guardian around this temple location, much less where they were going, what was buried there. They were too vague, and they are, Fudo's like, I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it again. And they fight and they argue and they yell at each other, and knives start coming out, and eventually the lizard folk are like 6 or 7 feet tall. They just kind of pick Fudo up by the scruff of his neck and start digging into his backpack, and of course Fudo like knees one of them in the balls or whatever. I don't know if lizard folk have balls. Don't argue about that in the comments. He just kicks him in the crotch and gets dropped, and I go, okay, he got a hand into your bag. There's like 20 lines on your character sheet for items. Where is the staff? And he's like, oh, it's line blah blah blah. And it's like, I roll it on a d20. I go, line 6. And he's like, oh, that's my water skin. I was like, okay. He grabs your water skin, but he doesn't get the staff out of your bag. And he goes, you didn't tell us all this stuff that was going to be at the end of this tunnel we were making. So if you want that item that we both know we're talking about, you're going to have to do something for me. And they go, and they kind of look around because, when enough steel comes out, kobolds start leaning in out of all the tunnels and passageways and peeking out from behind the ratty curtains of the great room that they're in. And of course, the lizard folk once again have to realize that there might be 7 or 8 of them, but there are 700 kobold that could very easily take them down with sheer numbers, so they gotta play nice. And they go, all right, what do you want, Prince Fudo? And he thinks for a little while, and I know I'm kind of nudging player autonomy here. And he's like, well, I want a new arm for Stands with a Fist. And they kind of look at each other and they kind of mumble back and forth because, it's been demonstrated pretty well that they know magic. They're pursuing these ancient artifacts. God knows what they do or what they're for. And Fudo thinks they can make like a new arm for her. And they're like, not really one of wood or iron or anything like that, like a prosthetic, but like something magical, something that will last. Or to, regrow her arm entirely. I mean, they're lizard people. You cut off their tails, they regrow over time, right? Can you put that on a kobold? No? Damn it. But they confer amongst themselves for a while Fudo is kind of like sitting there murmuring with his father, trying to tell him the details as quickly as he can while the lizard folk are deciding. And finally they come back and they say, all right, but we're going to need good materials. We could make her a prosthetic out of wood, but as soon as it gets wet, it falls apart. Or the first time she tries to do flurry of blows, it shatters. We're going to need some superior materials for this to be a fair trade, Prince Fudo Padclaw. And he's like, what? What do you want? To make a magical replacement arm for Stands with a Fist, we will need 3 mithril bars. And there's a silence. And he goes, 3 mithril bars? And he kind of looks over at his father. Father, do we have mithril here? And, kobolds collect, like colored glass and a few silvery coins and like, shiny things. Mithril is not among them. Much less 3 mithril bars. Jesus, even buying those on the market would be outrageous. And he can't go buy them because he's a kobold and he can't go into Oceanrim and like ask a local blacksmith, hey, I need 3 mithril bars. Can I buy them from you? Just this outrageous claim. It was like 3 mithril bars. Really? And he goes, yes, it would have to be something that would last and be strong enough to stand up to what her body demands of it. We need mithril. Iron rusts and wood shatters and iron and just they go down all these things. We need mithril. That especially so it won't be too heavy that she'll have to lean with it for the rest of her life. Mithril is light and strong and very easily molded by magic. So we need 3 mithril bars. He's like, 3 fucking mithril bars. All right. And then finally the lizard folk add in is like, we don't have a whole ton of time, Prince Fudo Padclaw. We were supposed to have this staff and be back to our mistresses within the next week or so. So with travel time, you've got like 3 days. And he goes, 3 days to get 3 mithril bars in exchange for this item that you want. And they go, yes. And he's like, God, fine. And the lizard folk diplomats leave. So that leaves Fudo there with his father, the chieftain Padclaw. And Fudo pulls out the silvery staff and gives it to his father and said, here, hide this. And if I don't come back, just give it to them. No questions asked. We don't need to get mixed up with whatever they're mixed up in. But so long as I've got them by the lizard balls and can make this right with stands with a fist, I have to try. And of course the chieftain goes, son, you're playing a very dangerous game. It's a game that must be played, father. Kobold. But, so they moved the big rock and they put the staff down there with all the bits of colored glass and the weird silver scepter and the bits and pieces, the treasure hoard of the Kobold chieftain, the shiny, there's like an aluminum beer can over there, things like that. And they move the rock back and they shift the sand around so you can't tell something's being hidden there. All right, 3 days, Prince Fudo, or Fudo the Bulette-Slayer, to get 3 mithril bars for the lizard folk to make this new arm for stands with a fist. Ready, set, go. And he's like, okay, obviously I'm going to have to break into Oceanrim. There's plenty of trade going on right around the waterfront. And he asked me a whole kinds of things about Oceanrim. Because remember, Fudo had broken into Oceanrim, like in his backstory, to do assassinations and things like that. He was a hunter of man and beast, so he knew his way around the city. He would just have to be very, very stealthy, especially if he was going to go steal something that valuable. Around the waterfront are plenty of forges, though, because if forges catch fire, you can, hit all the catches and the releases and dump whatever's on fire into the bay. So it's the safest way to go about things. If you've got a big populated area and you're dealing with fire and molten metal that's 6 zillion degrees, it's best to have it near a place where you can just drop it in the water if it gets out of control. So he decides, okay, I'm going to have to go in, steal 3 mithril bars, and be back in 3 days. Okay, so Fudo decides he's going to go this one alone. He's not going to take anybody with him. Most of the Kobold don't have class levels anyway. Like the shaman, the main healer of the tribe, is not going to go with him. And stands with a fist is understandably in shock. And, the chieftain's too old. Is like, I'm on my own. So he goes to stands with a fist. He's going to sit out the next day. He's going to rest and recover his hit points and replenish his bolts and arrows and get new potions and stuff like that. Do a little bit of shopping, what little the Kobold have to offer. And he goes to tell Stands with a Fist, I'm going on this quest to get you a new arm. It sounds so silly to say it out loud, but this was a personal quest for a very close friend. And Stands with a Fist pulls him into like her little like nesting area. They don't really have doors, but they've got like curtains where they've got like personal nests, and you might have like a crate and a jug of water and stuff like that. These little like den areas, and she pulls him into her den area, for some sex. So, not really like a pity fuck, but like, I have been close to death and you are questing in my name. Come be warm with me, that kind of thing. And again, she's been the girl next door his whole life, in the nesting area of the Kobold tribe, where there's like hundreds of nests all next to each other where the young can run and play and tumble with each other. They've known each other their whole lives, so this felt like more of a natural step for them to kind of end up in bed together. So, stands with a fist, there's with an arm missing, finds comfort in Fudo, and of course they go at it for a while, and I'll just let you think about that. Just do like a graceful fade to black, shall we? And after a while, I was like, okay, Fudo, let it never be known that I don't let my players get laid. Roll me a d20, we'll give you some XP. And I think it was like roll the d20 times 5 times your level for like storyline sex. And it's a drop in the bucket at level 5, level 6, level 7, wherever they were. Versus how much XP you need to make a level up. But the players always love it. You're like, yeah, I banged this chick and got XP for it. But, this was somebody that Fudo very much cared about. So there was a blossoming romance. And once Stands with a Fist came so close to death, she realized that, this is not something I can wait on. To never tell him how I feel, to never allow him to be close. I almost died there. I should probably get moving if I'm going to make a move on Fudo. So she takes him to bed. And Fudo leads the way from there. And he gets his storyline sex XPs. And I go, okay, after her like third or fourth, she goes into a happy sex coma. And you're kind of there with her, resting her head on your shoulder. So what are you going to do now? You could sneak away, or you could rest 8 hours. You'd probably be awake before her. What are you going to do? So he spends the night there in her den and is awake before her in the morning, and leaves the blanket over her. I'll be back. Kiss her forehead. And he's very sweet about it. It's very sweet. And he gets all of his crossbow bolts, and he's got like his little short sword, and he grabs his crossbow, frost +1 or whatever it was, does ice damage. It was very cool. And he heads out. So he decides, being that he's done so many like assassinations and like kill jobs in Oceanrim through his backstory, that the best way to get into Oceanrim is through the sewer. So we have a sewer level. Whee! And I did not design Oceanrim like down to the last house or anything. I basically drew a district map. And the same thing goes for the sewers. I could have drawn some kind of hellish maze full of drains and rainwater spouts and whirlpools that go nowhere and junk like that. But I was like, you know what? There's miles of tunnels, and you're a ranger, and you've been there before. It's in your backstory, so I'm gonna give you like a +5 to dungeoneering or tracking or whatever you want to call that, to get where you want to go in a dangerous place, because you're in human territory now, or dwarven territory, or whatever you want to call it, tall two legs territory. As a kobold, I'm going to treat this as hostile terrain, so you're going to have to roll to get where you want to go with any speed. So he spends the 8 hours getting from the Padclaw tribe burrow to like the big like Holland tunnel entrance. You could probably drive a train through it. It's got a big grate over it. And he bashes the lock and looks around. Nobody heard that? Okay. Bashes the lock a few times, and then opens it and closes it behind him, and just kind of like hangs the big padlock on it. And he starts down into the tunnels. Now these tunnels are like Ninja Turtle tunnels. There's a big river down the middle, and there's like sidewalks on either side. So it's not that bad to travel through. Just it doesn't smell good. Most of it is actually rainwater and salt water, but it is a sewer, so he tries to stay out of the water. And I made this big map with basically like you get lost locations. Like if he turns the wrong way, it would just lead to a blank spot on the map, and he would lose an hour trying to get back to where he wanted to go. So it's instead of drawing like a mindless maze of tunnels and waterways, I just drove like a straight path that wove this way and that, with all kinds of junctions that were just like the wrong way to go, and they would just lead to blank spots. And Fudo, I was like, okay, you got to decide which way to go, left, right, or straight, and, up, down, all that kind of stuff, because Oceanrim sits up high on a great set of cliffs, and the waterways start at the very bottom, way off to one side, so that they're not pouring sewage into the bay. That would suck. But it's carried away by the tide, all the bad stuff. So he goes in, and I was like, okay, you're going to get your +5 to dungeoneering because you are familiar with this place, and you're a ranger, and so on and so forth. So I gave him a great big bonus to get through this place quickly. And he got lost like 6 times. I was like, God damn, Fudo. He like throws it. 2 + 5. Okay, you go that way. You get lost for an hour. Okay, I throw it again. 6 + 5. 11. You get lost for another hour. And I was like, stop rolling so low. I'm giving you a +5. He does this like 6 times, making his way through this winding nonsense where most of it is just gravity. Like there's a lot of hills that go up, or a lot of tunnels that go up so that the water drains downward. So he's getting up closer to the city itself. And he gets lost. I was like, you're on a time limit, right? You've got you got a +5 to this, but he lost like half a day trying to get through this place initially, and I threw things in here and there to kind of challenge him, and eventually Fudo ran into something he couldn't quite place. He ran into what looked like a fish person, like from the waist up was a fish, and it had big, like ghoulish arms and boogly eyes that made it look kind of silly, but it was a fish man with a tail and the legs of a man just kind of wandering around as though blind. And Fudo kind of peers around the corner, and he sees that there's a big glowing crack in the wall. And he is curious, but the fish man, he's kind of wandering around. Fudo doesn't want to deal with him. He's way bigger than a kobold, like a largemouth bass, just a great big mouth full of strangely shaped teeth and eyes that don't seem to see in what little light there is. So Fudo kind of sneaks along to get around him while he's blindly wandering around. It's like when you see a picture of a fish that's from like the bottom of the ocean. It's got clear skin, and the eyes aren't really meant to see anything because there's no light down there. And he peers into the glowing crack and blows the lid off the whole campaign. Because I've been working with things in the background. I'm sure you've been wondering why the lizard folk have been gathering up these magical silvery staffs. Mattias the Prowler saw them using one to suck out somebody's soul and power it, and the lizard folk are making deals with the Kobold to recover more staffs like that one that got destroyed. He looks down through this crack and sees a city. Like below the city, like almost like a snow globe. Like if there's a crack in a snow globe and you're looking down at whatever's inside it, it's like that crack is in the sky somewhere, and here it's on the other side of the wall. And he looks back and forth. There's no wall on the other side. He's looking into another plane of existence, and he looks down. And I go, this cyclopean city is dripping with slime, and the buildings are leaning at strange angles and covered with rubble, and you can see more fish people schooling around in all different ways, going about meandering tasks, who knows what they're up to, carrying glowing pearls and getting into fights with each other and chewing other lesser creatures in half. And in real life, the player goes, "Is that R'lyeh?" And I go, "Shut up." He recognized it right away, that it was R'lyeh, the sunken city of Lovecraftian lore where Cthulhu sleeps. And I just blow his mind. In character, like Fudo doesn't know, but his player knows, oh shit, it's a Cthulhu campaign. So the lizard folk are using these staffs somehow. They have to be involved with this, because otherwise why would they be so desperate moving around like this? That this is like the elemental plane of water or the elemental plane of darkness or something like that. Fudo spots a crack that leads to R'lyeh below Oceanrim, and like a lot of pieces start coming together. But he cannot linger, and the fishman that wandered through the portal again looks kind of stunned or confused or blind, maybe going through a crack rather than a proper portal was not good on the noggin. So Fudo sneaks by him fairly easily, but is shaken by seeing the city below the city. And he wanders further and gets lost again, because he gets lost like 3 more times. I think we were pushing 10 by the time he stops rolling so damn low with a +5, because he supposedly knows where he's going. It's like, put down the D20, get a different D20, because you're going to run out of time at this rate. You're on a timer. It took you 8 hours to get there. And 10 hours wasted running around, and 1 hour, and it's like you're squishing your time already, and you're not even there yet. You need at least 8 hours to make it from the exit to your home, so it's not going well. Eventually, though, Fudo runs across another horrific sight. There are a trio of smaller cracks that glow much like the main one does, perhaps leading to the elemental plane of water, or whatever you want to call it, that are spewing horrible, gunky water forth, and Fudo sees a group of bodies around a corner. And kind of squatted down amongst these bodies is a creature. A creature that will fill his nightmares forever. It's green, it's spindly, you can see its ribs. 2 arms, 2 legs, but the arms are far, far too long, like some kind of boogeyman. Just like its arms are longer than its body and its legs combined, and its fingers are feet long with far too many knuckles that drip with slime, the cover of semen, and its mouth lacks a head. It's just the top of its neck opens like a flower full of teeth, and it's chewing on one of these bodies, kind of hunched over, with just its fingers wrapped around this entire body, like so many spindly arms. And Fudo's like, oh. And he looks over at one of the bodies, and it looks as though this creature grabbed this person's skin and pulled their facial skin to one side, like their mouth and their eyeballs and their nose are way over down on their necks. And you can see their skeletal structure underneath, but the person's suffocated because it melted their face and pulled it down to one side like some kind of horrific Silent Hill character, and they suffocated under the pressure of their own skin. If you'd like to look this monster up, it's called a Totenmaske, and I'll put the spelling in the description below. But I terrified him with it, and again, one of the best ways to scare your players with monsters is not to name it, because as soon as you name it, it has values or HPs or whatever you want to call it. It becomes tangible. So I gave him a horror movie scene while it was chewing on this other person. I was like, by the looks of it, these were either town guards or like engineers or something. They're dressed pretty well for being down in the sewer. There's like 5 or 6 bodies. This thing annihilated them, just like grabbed them by the faces, pulled their faces off to one side, let them suffocate, sliced one of them up, pulled one of them by the head and the shoulder just to pull his head off. It's like floating by in the water. It is a horrific scene. And Fudo's like, okay, it's distracted, right? You know, maybe I can get like the pot shot or the surprise round, if you will. I was like, okay, Fudo, you've got, it's distracted because it's eating, so you've got I'll just give you a 20. You know, if you've got time to line up the shot and you don't have any distractions and anything like that, you've got the surprise round, just take 20. So he rolls the damage, doubles it out, shoots it in the back. Now again, this thing is like gaunt and like unholy and no doubt from another dimension. I think the actual stats were like undead aberration fish or something like that. It's just this horrific creature. And he pegs it in the back with a crossbow bolt, rolls pretty good damage, and it whirls around. It doesn't have eyes, which is worse. It whirls around to kind of like sniff and sense him, and it starts reaching for him with these really fucking long arms. He's like, ah! He ducks around a corner. He's like, I reload my crossbow. And he lays down a hunter's trap. I forget what it's called in the hunter spells. I think it's like rope trick or something like that, rope trap. Basically, he possesses a rope with magic and throws it down like a snare, like for a rabbit, or not for a rabbit, but for like a doe or something large, like a Totenmaske. The Totenmaske is like a medium creature, so it's not huge, it's just horrifying. But the rope trap would hopefully catch it. So its arms are like 8 or 9 feet long, and it's reaching with these fingers that have way too many knuckles on them, and it reaches across the trap to try and grab him. You know, it's not smart enough to know what a trap is, but it reaches across to grab him, and Fudo's the knuckles, the fingers go all the way around him like boa constrictors. And he's just like, oh no! Yeah. And it grabs him, and his flesh sucks inward like somebody's draining the youth from his body. It's called flesh drink. It does a whole bunch of damage. I think it damages your charisma or your constitution or something like that. He looks older just from grabbing him. It does all kinds of horrible damage to his body. And, you know, it wanders forward just that one extra step, thinking that it's caught its prey. So it's bending at the elbows, pulling it towards this gnashing flower-shaped mouth. And it steps on the rope trap, which springs about it like so many snakes. And it drops Fudo as it is bound up super tight with this magically imbued rope, and it falls over, writhing and hissing and kicking its limbs in all directions. And Fudo's like, I run, fuck this. So Fudo takes off running while the Totenmaske struggles against the strength of his magically imbued rope, and he takes off like a shot down the tunnels, far, far away from this Totenmaske, this nightmarish fuck creature. And after he passes through like enough tunnels that he can't hear it anymore, and that the sound of the waterways is quite a bit more peaceful, let's say, he leaves the Totenmaske to its prey and chooses not to fight it, which is probably smart because it would have kicked his ass and then eaten him like the others. Fudo finally finds the ladder that goes up to like the manhole cover or whatever you want to call it. He checks the time. He kind of like Ninja Turtles out of the manhole cover, just kind of peeks a little bit, wearing the manhole cover as a hat. You know, it's dark. It's the middle of the night because he got lost so many times. It's dark again. And he finds that he is out at the docks where a bunch of the forges are. And the forges are, of course, abandoned because nobody forges things in the middle of the night. It's a day job. And he pops out and he puts the manhole cover back. He looks around. He does the stealth check. Nobody's around. And he thinks about, should I look for a warehouse? Should I look at, one forge after another? So he picks a forge at random, and he starts riffling through boxes and crates. And eventually, he does. And I roll it on, like, a fate check. Like, this guy could only work with iron or tin or copper or a number of other things. I put Mithril, like, near the very top, like 90 plus on the percentile, and I roll like a 92. I was like, okay, you got lucky. You throw open a chest, which isn't locked for some reason, but whatever. You throw open a chest, and it's full of mithril bars. There's like 21 of these things. And Phudo's like, I take all of them. I was like, you only need 3. I take all of them. I was going, that's going to weigh you down. And I go, no, it's not. It's mithril. Mithril is very lightweight. And I was like, he's right. Damn it. So Phudo stuffs his bags with 21 mithril bars, just raw material, robs the guy blind. And you'd think that chest would have been locked or enchanted or not out in the open, but shut up, I wasn't thinking about it at the time. And Phudo fills his bag with mithril bars. He's like, he needs 3, but he's going to bring home a whole bunch for the Padclaw tribe to have in their shiny treasures. I don't know. And he lifts the manhole cover and he looks down like he's expecting the Totenmaske to have followed him. But no, there's too many tunnels and passageways and waterways. It lost him entirely. So Phudo kind of goes back down the ladder. He replaces the manhole cover and goes back down into the sewers. Nobody the wiser. And yes, I rolled for patrols, for anybody who happened to be wandering by, cut purses. I had like 8 or 9 fucking rolls. Fudo was so damn lucky. Nobody saw him. Nobody was nearby. No cabin boy lighting the lamps in the middle of the night. Nothing. And he goes back down into the sewer system. He is sure he's going to come across the Totenmaske again. And he does find the 5 or 6 bodies that the Totenmaske was chewing on. And he also finds, in pieces, his rope. So it got away. It got out of his trap. It must have chewed its way through the ropes or something horrific like that. But it got away and it left. And Fudo's looking down this passageway. He's looking down that passageway. It went somewhere. It's out there. And like he looks at the bodies, it didn't stay or didn't like take any of the bodies with it. It didn't chew on the bodies anymore. It just got up and left. It's looking for me. And he checks the bodies over. There's nothing of any real value. These guys were probably just patrolling the sewers at random to make sure there were no squatters or anything. But it's out there somewhere. And Fudo rolls especially well to get out of the sewers and doesn't get lost as much. So he makes his way just about as dawn of like the 2nd or 3rd day is coming. And he motors across the beach and through the woods, and it's an 8-hour journey to the burrow. And he's been awake for a very long time, so he rests in the middle of the woods, like up in a tree, and then continues on with as little sleep as possible. And he makes it with about a day left on his mission's timer. And he delivers this giant rucksack full of mithril bars to the lizard folk diplomats. And he goes and he gets Stands with a Fist, who is, of course, very happy that he's back. There'll be more sex later. And the lizard folk take 3 of the bars, and they go, all right, stand still, young lady, and all that kind of stuff. And they roll up their sleeves, and they stand around her in a circle, and they do their Bobby, blah, blah, Bobby, blah, their ritualistic chant. They spent the past couple of days preparing the spell, because they assumed he would be back, which is nice. They put that kind of faith in him. And they take the 3 mithril bars and they sprinkle the pixie dust on it, and they throw, oil from this, and they hit it with a corn cob, and they do all kinds of different stuff. And they bring Stands with a Fist, forth. She's, you're not allowed to wear anything. It might melt into your arm. So she's standing there naked, and they morph the 3 mithril bars and the kobold monk together, and it melts down her shoulder and forms a brand new arm. And it's not like hard metal like armor. It's fleshy and soft, and you can see her blood going through it. It's a part of her. And they go, there you are. Stands with a Fist. They're trying to memorize some of these tiny kobold names that are clearly beneath them. And, you have a new arm. It is made of mithril. Nothing you can do as a kobold will be able to damage that. That arm will last longer than you will. So, Fudo, Prince Fudo. Fudo the Bulette-Slayer, as we've heard. A deal's a deal, is it not? And they kind of glower at each other for a while. It's like, yes, of course, I'm a kobold of my word. And they go over into the great room, and they push the table aside, or the big rock aside, down into that little area where all their shiny things are. And they pick up the staff, and they put it back, and they hide the area again. They come back to the diplomats, and they hand it over. And he goes, there you are, a deal's a deal. And they give the chieftain of the Padclaw tribe, his father, the deed to the river. All the fresh water and fish are theirs to have. And the staff is ours, yes. And they have their own celebration moment. And he goes like, good doing business with you, bye. And they leave like straight away. They don't stop to rest or eat or celebrate that Fudo returned or anything like that. They've got the staff. They're leaving now, bye. And all the kobold are pretty much happy to see them go. So the lizard folk leave with the magical silvery staff in tow. Fudo is troubled by the revelation that there is a city beneath the city of Oceanrim, but it is not his business, so he chooses not to worry about it. Stands with a Fist, of course, has a brand new, badass mithril arm. She can't wait to punch something with it. But for now, there's going to be more sex. So she pulls him off to one side for celebratory kobold sex. And, Fudo might be 16th in line to be chieftain, but he's still kind of expected to have children someday. And who better than his childhood sweetheart? So there might be some eggs in the future. You never know. But even if there aren't, it's good to practice. So Fudo returns victorious. Stands with a Fist, has her new arm, and the lizard folk are gone for whatever machinations they have, returning to their so-called mistresses. Who are they? We don't know yet. But Chieftain Padclaw is already readying the hunters to go take on this river. There's plenty of fish and moss and shiny rocks and all the things that the kobold want but have been denied for so long. The lizard folk are leaving. That land is theirs now. So they are so happy. This is going to be a new intake of food and, slate rocks to make weapons with and supplies and fresh water and all kinds of great stuff. It is good to be a member of the Padclaw tribe now. And I think that is where we will stop for today. So a happy ending for Prince Fudo, the Bulette-Slayer, and a happy ending for the Padclaw tribe in general. So the story of Oceanrim shall continue next time, and we will see another facet of this grand campaign open up before us. So until next time, I will see you on the next D&D stories. Keep gaming. Hi guys, T here. Remember to hit that like button for me on your way out. If you'd like to see artwork and maps from my gaming table, check out the D&D Stories Facebook page. Also, I have a Patreon if you'd like to toss a few gold pieces into your humble bard's hat. Links in the description below. Keep gaming!